According to the DA, South Africa has reached a breaking point. In the meantime, the ANC Youth League formed a guard at its headquarters at the Lithuli House, preventing the Democratic Alliance from handing in a memorandum to its leaders. News Centre's Bongani Siziba has more.
It was a sea of blue as scores of frustrated South Africans took to the streets of Johannesburg in unity to voice their grievances at Lithuli House, the ruling party headquarters, with claims that the governing party has failed to fulfill its promises.
Businesses have failed, our economy has stagnated, and unemployment is the highest in the world. It's been 15 years, but the government, the ANC, they knew about the problem long before then. In 1998, they were warned that if they didn't build new power stations before 2007, South Africa would run out of electricity.
We are not going to live like this. We are not going to allow you to send our country into darkness. Today we are saying, Bangaba, you don't switch on the power, we'll take it away from you.
They blame the country's energy crisis on the ANC cadre deployment policy.
They are not there because they are capable, they are skilled or qualified. They are there because of favors. We want capable people to run our state institutions.
The Democratic Alliance visit to the ruling party headquarters was not a pleasant one. They were met by a heavy police contingent who had barricaded the streets to separate the two groups. The ANC Youth League stood guard at Lithuli House, claiming provocation from the opposition.
As the Youth League, we are here to respond to what we believe is a very mischievous, very misplaced, childish and cheap political tactic by the Democratic Alliance to march to the headquarters of another political party.
However, within the ranks of the ruling party, there are still those who share the same sentiments as the opposition party.
As a member of the ANC and as a member of the society, I'm concerned about what is happening around our country. Remember, this issue of electricity affects all of us. It's not a matter of supporting the party that we are leading it. To effects whereby when I'm sitting down and I'm thinking about the matters that affect us on a daily basis, I've saw some gap. There's nothing to defend here in Luthuli House. Instead, I'm supporting the motion that is coming with the opposition party.
Meanwhile, the march comes a few days after the National Energy Regulator of South Africa, NERSA, granted Eskom 18.65% electricity tariff hike. On Friday, #NotInMyName and civil groups marched to NERSA and union buildings in protest of the electricity crisis in the country. The ANC has described the protest as misplaced agendas. Bongani Siziba, News Central TV, Johannesburg.
Well, joining me to discuss this further is Kevin Mileham, a member of the South African Parliament who represents the Democratic Alliance. Kevin, good to see you and thanks for your time. I saw you there speaking to a crowd. What did they signify as you demonstrated?
Let me start by saying that we were taking the complaints of every single South African to the original scene of the crime. We were taking it to where the decisions are made to loot our state-owned entities, where corrupt and incompetent cadres are deployed to manage those state-owned entities. They're deployed to government, they're deployed to the judiciary, and we were taking our complaint and the complaint of all South Africans to the ANC as the governing party and saying enough is enough. I just want to correct something in your report. They said scores of DA supporters. Let me clarify. There were about 5,000 DA supporters, and there were probably about 100 ANC Youth League supporters. There was no clash. The march was completely peaceful. We went to Luthuli House. We had no intention of handing over a memorandum. We were merely going there to express our concerns and to raise the complaints and the outrage of all South Africans about the electricity crisis and the lack of urgency on the part of the ANC to deal with it.
Kevin, I love this clarification. So what you're saying is that what we saw is a potpourri of, a crowd from even the ruling party and the DA all saying enough is enough.
Absolutely. You know, I think that the comments that I made in my speech to the marchers was that our economy has stagnated and our unemployment is at a record high. But it's every single South African that's affected. You know, there's no electricity. We sit in darkness. We have no electricity to cook food. Students have no electricity to study. There's no hot water to wash with. And every day businesses are failing and companies are disinvesting. This is a crisis of massive proportions, and the government is not doing enough to resolve it.
And why do you think this should be the government's job when you have the company Eskom in charge?
Well, Eskom is a state-owned entity. It's a government company. It is owned, managed, and operated by government. It has a minister in Pravin Gordhan who oversees it. And then we have another minister, Gwede Mantashe, who just happens to be the chairperson of the ANC, who is responsible for determining energy policy. And between the two of them, they have managed to fail on a massive scale and caused South Africa to suffer longer than it needs to.
But it doesn't look as if the president has been, evasive or adamant to the problems, because he's been speaking and he says he's proposing that Eskom host the electricity tariff. Perhaps tell us about the impact that this may have on the load shedding issue.
Well, there's two issues here. The first is that the president has said that Eskom mustn't roll out the electricity tariff, the tariff increase of 18.65%. It's quite hypocritical of him, because a week ago he said there was nothing he could do about the electricity tariff, that his hands were tied. And I quote, he said exactly that. The issue that we have is that South Africans are being asked to pay more for electricity that they don't receive. And that's not fair on anyone. So we are saying you cannot implement that electricity tariff because it's unconstitutional, it's unfair, and it's unaffordable to South Africans, it's unaffordable to the ordinary citizen, it's unaffordable to businesses who are trying to run their operations. So that's the issue with the electricity tariffs. Eskom, on the other hand, has a different challenge, and that is that if they don't get that tariff increase, they have no way of fixing their failing plant and equipment. Now, the biggest challenge that Eskom faces is that without new generation capacity coming online, they will never get that equipment fixed. And here I lay the blame firmly at the feet of Gwede Mantashe, the Minister of Energy, who has not been speedy enough in procuring new independent power producer generation. One of the things that I would like to highlight is the fact that both Mantashe, President Ramaphosa, as far back as 2015, was saying in 2 years, we will see the end of load shedding. You will forget it ever existed. Gwede Mantashe last week said it'll be 6 to 12 months and you'll forget load shedding ever existed. These are statements, these are promises that have no bearing in reality. The facts are that Eskom is in a dire state. We need to build new generation capacity. That's going to be a longer term project. And when I say longer term, I'm saying 3 to 5 years. And in the meantime, we need to do everything we can to open up our market, to make it easier for businesses and ordinary citizens to put solar panels on their roof, to be independent of Eskom, to generate their own electricity and to feed excess electricity back into the grid.
Well, Kevin, Mileham, many thanks for speaking with us.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.